Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Hope everybody is fine. And we had a good rainy day today in Karachi. So many of you might not have electricity, but I know your love for us and I know that you will turn up using your data packages and everything. So I'm waiting for a few comments. If you can comment and tell me whether you can see us or not. Am I visible? Am I audible? Please do tell me so that I can begin. We are waiting for your comments. If you can comment and tell us whether you can see us or not, I'll begin. Am I audible? Am I visible? At the end of the session today, we are going to announce something really surprising. We have been posting teasers all along the week. Just give me a minute. I need to ask somebody. Okay. Walaikum afzalus salam. So we are visible. Alhamdulillah. Are we all set to start? Am I audible? Am I visible? Please do let me know. So that we can begin. Just one comment. Yes, fine. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I don't know whether it is Fatma or whether it is Rashida. So both of you, hi over there. So today we are going to have an amazing personality with us, as I had posted on the page also. You must have seen today we have Miss Donna Bryson. She is a housing and hunger reporter, and she's a foreign correspondent for the Associated Press. She is a freelancer at the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and the Christian Science Journal. And the favorite thing to have on our page is that she is an author of two books. One is The Home of the Brave, and the other is called It's a Black White Thing. And she'll be talking about her books and her journey and her definition of success, because success is a word which I believe belongs to the definers. It is said that definitions belong to the definers and not the defined. So it may have a different meaning for you, the word success. It may have a different meaning for me. It may have a different meaning for anybody. So let us know what Donna has to say about this. I am calling up her up here. Hey, Donna. I shall say good morning to you. Here it is good night almost.
Hello, everyone, and thanks so much for coming at late hour for you. I think it's a nice time for me, 10 o'clock in the morning in Denver, Colorado.
Thank you so much, Donna, for taking out time from your busy schedule and giving us these few minutes of enlightenment and productivity. So, Donna, we would like, I tried to give your introduction. I don't know whether I was able to do justice to it or not. Will you like to please share your life's journey, your achievements?
Well, I was born in Florida in the southern United States. My father worked for the government, which involved a little bit of moving around. And in the U.S., I've lived in Florida, which is where most of my extended family still is, in Illinois, in Colorado, in California, which I consider that my home state, because that's where I finished high school. And it's in probably elementary school in Colorado and in high school that I first became interested in writing. And I became interested in writing, like a lot of people, by reading. A big reader as a child. I have vivid memories of my father taking me to the library and just saying, any book you want, and having that freedom of knowing I could just choose piles of books, and my dad would help me get them home. I started writing in elementary school, writing fiction and poetry, which I think a lot of kids do. In high school, I gravitated more toward journalism. I was interested in people, and I enjoyed, as a journalist, you have this license to talk to strangers. You just go up to someone and explain that you're working on a story and you'd like to hear about their life story. And and that was really revelatory for me, to be able to sit down and talk to a stranger and learn about other people's lives. And so from high school, where I wrote for my high school newspaper and edited the newspaper when I was a senior, I went to Northwestern University, which is very well known in the States for its journalism program, and studied journalism there. And one of the things about the program at Northwestern is it's very, very focused on the job training. There's lots of opportunities to do internships to throughout your career as a student. And I worked for four news organizations while I was still at school, and one of them was the Associated Press, which is a international news agency based in New York. I interned for the Associated Press between my sophomore and junior years, so between my second and third years of university in Ohio. And at the end of that internship, I was told I would have a job at the AP when I graduated. So I went back to school, finished school, and then started working for the Associated Press in Missouri, where I worked for 3 or 4 years. And then I transferred to New York on what they call the international desk, because at that point I was interested in working overseas. And the kind of the progression to getting to be an overseas correspondent is to spend some time in New York editing the work of other foreign correspondents. I went to New York in 1989 and worked there as an editor, but also as a reporter at the United Nations. And then in 1993, I was transferred to South Africa, which was my first foreign correspondency. In 1993, if you remember, that was a year before the first all-race elections that ended apartheid. So it was a very exciting, dramatic time to be a reporter in South Africa, where I was until I worked in South Africa from 93 to 96. So I saw Nelson Mandela's election and also got to see the beginnings of his presidency. And then I transferred with the AP to New Delhi, where I worked for 3 years. And while I was in New Delhi, I got to travel to Pakistan several times, Islamabad and Lahore,
Oh,
and Peshawar. So I've spent some
okay.
time. And after 3 years in India, I transferred again with the AP to Cairo, where I worked for 6 years as a
Okay.
Middle East news editor. So I was an editor and a writer. Traveled quite a bit in Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, Yemen, so quite a bit of the Middle East. And following that, I went to London, where I worked for another 4 years, still for the AP, as a editor for Africa. So though I was working in London, I was working with reporters throughout Africa, editing their copy, helping them decide what kind of stories they were going to do. And after 4 years of that, I went back to South Africa, this time as chief of bureau in Johannesburg, and got to see South Africa as a more normal country at this point, and learn how they were making that transition from apartheid to being a democratic, multiracial country. And then I wrapped up my foreign correspondent career there. In 2012, I moved to Denver, Colorado, which is where my husband is from. And here I've been mostly freelancing, but for the last year or so, I've been working for a local news agency called Denverite, which focuses on my city now. And as I mentioned earlier, my beat is housing and hunger, two huge issues throughout the United States and throughout the world, really. I guess they're issues that I've covered as a foreign correspondent. Now I'm covering them much closer to home. Denver's challenge is that housing prices have been rising much more quickly than people's wages. And it's created a lot of pressure. It's created homelessness. It's created people spending much of their income on housing, leaving very little for education, medicine, food. And that is with the coming of the coronavirus, that has been underscored, those challenges that people are facing, and those are things I'm trying to write about. So that's my kind of life story and professional story so far.
Rich and full of experiences, I must say, Donna. Okay, Donna, there are a few people who are commenting that your voice is a little low. So if you can like speak a little louder.
Okay, I'm
Okay.
going to go closer to the microphone. Does that help?
Now it's much better. Now I can hear you also really clearly. Okay, so
Okay.
Donna, you have a rich traveling experience as you described it. I went there and I stayed, for this much number of years in this particular place. I would like to ask you about your experience when you came to Islamabad, Peshawar, and Lahore, as you said. So, what did you find the most appealing or the most attractive in these cities?
Uh, a story that has always touched me. My first visit, I'm very interested in music. I love to listen to music and to hear the music of
Okay.
all these places that I've been. And of course, I arrived first in South Asia in Delhi, and got a chance to hear lots of live music in Delhi, and
Mm.
buy the CDs of all the of local musicians. And when I traveled to Islamabad, the first thing I said to my colleagues at the AP bureau there is, "Where should I go to buy some music?" And they took me to the CD store in Islamabad, and I got recommendations for all kinds of things to buy, but in particular, an album by Reshman. People sound familiar to you all. And I brought that CD back to the bureau in Islamabad and played it on my computer. And everybody in the bureau was singing along, and it was beautiful. Then I
Oh,
took the CDs back to Delhi, and again played that same CD on my computer in the New Delhi office of the Associated Press, and again everybody was singing along. Uh,
that's the
was
good thing about music. It connects everybody, whether we
exactly.
understand the language or not. But it completely changes one's perspective. So we have a question here, Donna. Tahir is asking, how does traveling makes you feel? If I am traveling, it makes me feel really happy
Mm-hmm.
and kind of free, from household chores and job and this and that. If I'm not going for purposes related to job, which is seldom, or shall I say, which is rarely available. So, how did you sum up? How can you sum up this enriching experience of yours of traveling from here to there? What was there to learn?
I think that every new trip, whether I'm packing up a house to move for a couple of years or taking a holiday or going for a work trip, it always just opportunity is the word that comes to mind. So I know I'm going to get a chance to meet new people. I know I'm going to get a chance to hear new music, which I love, and eat new foods. I always that's
Um,
part of travel for me is learning what people like to eat and expanding my own palate in that way. I know I'm going to read new books because a lot of if I'm moving to a new country, then I want to read up on this new country, and a lot of the reading will be fiction. I'm a nonfiction writer as a journalism
um,
nonfiction, but I find that fiction is so rich. I think fiction writers are going to tell secrets that maybe maybe a
yeah. Things that are happening around you. So these
yeah.
fiction writers, they give you an escape from that. Okay, Donna, I have a question for you. As you said that writing and music and food, so all of these things gives energy to you. So I just wanted to ask, when you were a child, when you were back there in school, did you always want to be a journalist or a writer, or was there any other wish? Because here, if you ask a child what do you want to become, he would say a doctor, an engineer, a software designer, stuff like that only, very
Mhm.
technical things. So people do not usually choose writing as a profession. I mean, purposefully, or what to say, they do not intend to become writers.
Mhm.
Life or fate turns them into writers, but it is always there for pleasure. I'm
Mhm.
talking about the circumstances over here. So when you were a child, did you always wish to become a writer, or was there any other aim?
Well, when I was very young, I wanted to be a tightrope walker in the circus. That was my first desire, I suppose. But very soon after that, I'm sure before I finished elementary school, I wanted to be a writer. And it's interesting. I didn't have models within my family. I don't have professional writers within my immediate family, but I have a lot of readers in my immediate family, and I think that probably helped fuel that or inspired that wish to be a writer. My father's mother, my grandmother, was a librarian. That's what she trained as,
Mhm.
but she also taught school. My mother's sister is an English teacher, so
Oh,
I have that in my background too to maybe push me toward being a writer. And I guess I am lucky in that no one ever said you can't be. It's just something that my parents wanted to encourage me in whatever direction I wanted to be encouraged in, and trying to help me find opportunities. And I'm sure that and supported me in writing for my school newspaper, supported me in wanting to go to journalism school, though it wasn't a path they understood, maybe knew much about, but I think they trusted me to try to figure it out. And I had
okay. Yes, yes, please
and I
continue.
had good mentors as well. in high school, mentors who also encouraged me and let me know that it's something I could do. And in college, I particularly remember, and I talked about Northwestern being very focused on experience, on learning by experience. And they also brought in lots of reporters to talk to students. And I can vividly remember a reporter from the Sun-Times whose work I had, the Chicago Sun-Times, the main newspaper in Chicago, whose work I had read and really admired. And he came into class and he was so shy that he couldn't even really look at us. he was intimidated by the classroom of undergraduates. And I thought, well, someone that shy can be a reporter. I certainly can't consider myself shy as well.
Okay, so we have a question here, Donna. A participant is asking, how did traveling reflect your writing?
Well, it taught me the essentials of what people want to know about one another. I could find that as a foreigner living in other countries, the kind of questions people ask me about my life were the kind of questions that I knew had to be included in the stories that I wrote. And you hear them over and over again. The essentials of what people are interested in. People are interested in what we have in common, and I think we have so much in common. And I was able to kind of touch on that in all the places I visited and all the places I've written about. I can remember
Very right.
When I moved from Johannesburg to New Delhi, I met a woman, Indian woman, very early in my time, and she wanted to know what South Africa was like. And I said, well, for starters, there's only 40 million people in the entire country, because I was still really kind of overwhelmed by the numbers of people in India inside. And she said, I'd like to see that. It's just with this country that seems so sparsely populated to her. And I do think people want to connect with one another. And I've seen that over and over in my travels.
Okay. Okay, so Donna, we have another question here. I would like to add on to this question. So that the question actually is, what are the travel habits you intend to continue? Since you have traveled this much, and you are a writer too, and writers are, organized kind of individuals. They keep their things, in a really organized sort of a way. So do you have any specific travel habits when you travel?
My husband, in the years before I met him, he managed modern dance companies. And he often, one of his jobs was being the travel manager for modern dance companies. So he was really in the habit of making sure that 20 musicians and dancers all got to the places they needed to be, all were at the airport at the right time, all had the stuff they needed to pack, all had their tickets. And when I travel with him, I really let him be the, the company manager. But I do try to pay attention to the things he pays attention to when I'm traveling by myself. Am I organized? Do I have my tickets in the right place? Do I have my passport in the right place? Have I checked the weather of where I'm going to go and the things that I'm going to need for that kind of weather?
I think this habit is really common. I think all over the world you see people when they're leaving the house, even, locked up. And then once again they go inside just to check out the stove or just to check the window and the curtains, whether they are drawn, the electricity switches. Even I have this stupid habit. Whenever I'm going to school, I just come back in and I just check everything and then I go back out. And sometimes I come back inside to go to the washroom once and then I go out. I don't know, but I think everybody is really same on this ground of coming and checking out different things again and again, just to make sure everything is in its right place. Okay, Donna.
You make a good point there that travel doesn't have to be going overseas. Travel to be leaving your house and observing your own neighborhood in the way you might as a newcomer to your own neighborhood. Every step out of the house, I suppose, is a journey. And I think
is a journey.
You kind of have that in mind when you're out and about in places that might seem familiar to you. And as a writer, the need to be an observer, a close observer. You can't forget that even if you think you know where you are. You have to pay attention to where you are.
Very right, very right. Okay, Donna, as the topic of the interview suggests, key factors of success. Success is a very cliched word, something which might be success for me might not be success for somebody else. So everybody has a different definition of success. For somebody, just getting married and having a bunch of children may be the success. Having a bunch of children may be success. For somebody else, success may be achieving what they wanted to be when they were a child. For somebody, success might be, leaving the house and leaving everything behind and just go on a vacation, a long one, for years and years. So what is your definition of success, Donna? I would want to know that.
Well, I chose a profession that's changed a lot, particularly in recent years, and I think success for me is has been able to keep doing it, which has involved kind of learning more skills. I started out, I wanted to be a writer, but I've also learned to be a photographer, okay photographer, but something you also have to do. My In the last year, I've also, in addition to writing stories for print for our website, I've had to be able to tell stories on the radio. And that's another skill that I've had to learn. In order to keep doing what I've always wanted to do, I've had to keep growing. So I guess success is, for me, is being able to keep growing and being willing to learn new things. And every once in a while, being able to learn new things. I would say that's a success for me.
Such a beautiful perspective, Donna. It should be appreciated that the need, the urge to learn more, the need to grow on and know new things and experience them and learn from that experience and implement it in your life is such power. Okay, Donna, as you said in the beginning that you used to read a lot and you still read. So, which is that book that you would recommend the whole world to read? Something that has been stayed with you, a book.
Mm.
Which is your favorite book?
I'm going to cheat because I really couldn't decide on one, so I have three that I picked up when you told me to this question. One is this book by Zora Neale Hurston. I don't know if I can put that in the right place. I'll put it right in front of my
No.
face. So, Her Eyes
Uh,
Are Watching God, which was published in
uh,
1997. It's a set in Florida, which is, of course, where I was born, and like that's one of the reasons that stayed with me all these years because my immediate family moved away from Florida, but my grandparents, my cousins, and aunts and uncles were still in Florida. And this book gave me a sense of what the world was like for them. Uh, Zora Neale Hurston is African American, as I am. She was studied as an anthropologist and so has a real deep interest in people, and you can see that in this book and a real poetic way of writing, which I think she got just from listening. The oral traditions of African Americans from slavery times are kind of included in this,
mm,
and it's really very lovely. The writing is lovely. The setting is fascinating to me, and the main character, a woman named Jamie, a very strong character and a very compassionate character, someone who stayed with me for a long time too. And then the other book I pulled up talked about being a big reader as a child. This is uh, my childhood copy of Little Women,
yeah.
which I think there's so many writers. This book was published in the 1860s. There's so many women writers who I think have been inspired by Louisa May Alcott, inspired by Jo.
Yeah.
The character in the book was so much Louisa May. And you talk about wanting to what made me want to be a writer. I'm sure Jo had a lot to do with that, and I think it has had a lot to do with the careers of so many women who write. I have this whole theory that Suzanne Collins' Hunger Games is actually Little Women. I can bore you with that another time. There's that, and then Nelson Mandela's biography.
I am reading this right now.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, it's about Nelson Mandela, of course, but it was also written to kind of introduce the world to the ANC at a time when
Mm,
the apartheid government had tried to suppress knowledge of the ANC. It tried to control
mm,
the history of the ANC, and this was the ANC's leader talking back, telling the truth of what his movement wanted and why it wanted what it wanted. And it stayed next to me in my years working in South Africa because it's just so full of history, and it's got a great index. And I would, meet people who I could read about in this book, and so it became for me a way to learn about South Africa as well. So three books instead of one, but all very important to me.
I was reading this book recently. It's called The Lord of the Flies
Mm.
by William Golding.
Mm.
Amazing book.
And you know
Fiction,
all about
non-fiction,
fiction. It must be
yet
very interesting.
yeah, it's fiction, but
Mm.
yet it is so non-fiction. It's also true. The themes of leadership, And
Mm,
that satire that he has presented throughout the plot, throughout the setting, is
mm,
so amazing. You get to learn so many things from that particular book. One more book, George Orwell, 1984,
mm,
beautifully written, a book that invents its own language. And in fiction, I really like that all of this is fiction, but again,
mm.
all of this has a little political touch to it. But purely fiction is Arundhati Roy. My
Uh,
eyes are watching. No, no, no. This is Zora Neale Hurston.
um, God of Small
Uh,
Things. God of Small Things.
yeah, The God of
Mm,
Small Things.
yeah.
Beautiful written book. Again, the Indian setting, and of South India basically, and how beautifully the emotions of a woman, so basic,
Mm,
portrayed. I really loved that thing about that book. So again, books and characters help you live different lives which you would not dare to otherwise lead. Which is that one character, Donna, I would say that, which is one character of any book that you have read, which you feel associated to, or which you feel that you are a reflection of, or which stays with you from the sunset, from the sunrise to the sunset. Is there a character, a specific character?
well, there's Janie and Their Eyes Are Watching God for sure.
Mm.
Touchstone. Joe and Little Women, another touchstone for me. Um, when I think of his name's Thomas Mann Budenbrooks, again uh, the those characters stand out for me too. So those are the ones that come to mind this morning.
Okay, Donna, we have a very technical question here. How do you ensure your work is accurate and factual? As you write for a newspaper and you are a journalist, so
Mm.
how do you make sure of that?
Well, as I'm reporting, I'm continually asking myself, have I done enough reporting? Who else can I talk to? Who else might understand the situation that's new to me in a way that will be
Hmm.
um, informative and revelatory for my readers? What statistics can I find? Where's the data? And
Yeah, exactly. So
I
much of data to deal with.
yeah. And I think I'm also because I'm a journalist. My work is public. The public is going to
Hmm.
read, which makes me accountable. The people I'm talking to, they want to be able to. I want them to be able to see themselves in the book, or in the book in the newspaper article, and that's always in the back of my mind as I'm reporting. That's what because I feel accountable, and that's what keeps me accurate.
Accountability itself is a great trait. It instills so much of responsibility in you that then you don't have to look for any other thing. If that one trait of accountability is there in you, I think it is the sum total of everything positive that one can have. Okay, Donna. Okay, so here in Pakistan, I would say that the condition is that we have too many doctors, too many engineers, so many business executives, but we don't have much writers, contemporary writers. In the olden days, we used to have Mirza Sadullah Khan Ghalib. All of these people wrote Urdu poetries,
Mm,
Mir Taqi Mir, and we used to have, Ibn Insha, Mustansir Hussain Tar Sahab.
mm,
Now these people, they are there, but they are legends. But if we talk about the generation today, we do not see many writers coming out. Again, journalism is there. People might go in there. People
mm,
do write for the newspapers and all of that. That's a lucrative career. But people writing books, as you yourself have written, two books. So there are not much writers. This is what I feel. I don't know about the situation over there. So
mm.
why do you think that void is there? It's the number of other professions is much larger than of writers. We don't
Mm.
have much variety these days. Why is that so?
I'm sure the economic pressure has a lot to do with that, and that's certainly the case in America too. You're not sure that it's going to be a profession you can feed your family on, and I can certainly understand that. Uh, but if people are driven to it, they might find a way to do it on top of something else. And I think a lot of people are quite driven to be writers. It's hard to find the path to getting published. I suppose that's the next thing too. You might have a lot of
Hmm.
writers, but who's publishing? And that might be
Yeah.
more difficult now. In fact, there is the opportunity, of course, of self-publishing and of digital publishing, which perhaps
Hmm.
more people need to look into as a possibility.
But again, digital publishing and self publishing is a lot of investment for a writer who does not have anything else to earn from but writing.
Hmm.
And digital publication again is not very attractive in terms of monetary benefits.
Yes.
So here in Pakistan there's no concept of digital publishing is there, of course, but people still go out to those vendors selling books on stalls, and people buy hard copies. So
Yeah.
we have that culture, but again we need to set up some kind of procedure for this publishing issue to be resolved, because I think many writers are there, we don't know them yet because
Mm-hmm.
of their script is just lying in a diary or
Yeah.
in a notebook
The
somewhere in the
advantage
corner
of
of
having
a.
a chance to show it to someone.
Yeah, very right, very right.
I,
Okay, Donna, we have a question here. Can you describe the three best qualities of your writing style?
the editor once called one of my articles lucid, which I really enjoyed because there's that sense of shedding light, but also of being clear. And I think that's from writing for a news agency for such a long time, where you're writing a lot for a very varied audience, and you want to be able to be clear. So clarity is probably the most important quality of my writing, I think. Um, and humanity. Every story I write
Hmm.
has has data, has facts, but it's all about. I write about housing and hunger. It's about issues that affect people, and I always try to be sure to include the stories and the viewpoints of people who are most affected by whatever topic or challenge I'm writing about. There has to be humanity in there. And the three, huh? uh, and I think my language is direct.
Hmm.
My father's father's grandfather was a minister, and there's certainly a tradition of flowery language that that I've heard from my father when he's quoting his grandfather. And though I can enjoy that to hear that, as a writer, I want to be much more simple, much more direct myself.
Here also, when children are writing these days, I am teaching grade 9 and 10 English. So when children are writing and they submit me their written pieces, they um, do everything to make their writing as flowery as possible. Wordings, wordings, wordings. They complicate the writing so much because there is this mindset that, the more heavily worded your piece is, the teacher is going to be awed. Oh my God, what a writer, what a vocabulary. But again, being simple and basic is so much important at times that sometimes when you just flower up your writing with these additional words and you remove the easy with the difficult, the actual purpose is lost somewhere. So again, as you said, that your writings are lucid and they're clear, it has clarity in it. So I think we are looking for such people in such writings, people who actually try to convey a message, in spite of the fact that they have good vocabulary. They do not convey their vocabulary bank in an article. And sometimes I've seen here when I'm reading newspapers, the articles, they're written in such a diplomatic way that, okay, the title says that it is in favor of this person, but when you start reading the article, you would see that, okay, it is in favor of this person, but it is also in the favor of the opponents, that, okay, they were also right, he's also right, she's also right. So sometimes you feel that the writer should know who's right before conveying this to us. So I think that is very, very important. Okay, so we have one more question. Don't you think that technology is killing the creativity that is mainly exclusive to writers?
I
Good
really don't. I
question.
think technology is giving us more opportunity to be creative, opportunity to reach
Agree.
wider audiences, opportunity to inform our own writing with more perspectives. Because here I am today talking to people in Pakistan.
Mm.
I didn't have to travel there to do that. I didn't have to write a letter and wait for the return. I can have a very immediate expansion of my worldview in an hour or even just a few minutes. We were talking earlier. I learned a lot about what the quarantine has meant for your city. So I think that if we use it correctly, if we don't be enthralled by the technology, but still try to focus on the humanity, that technology can be a real gift.
Yeah, exactly. Again, the object or the thing is not good or bad. It's the uses that makes it good or bad. if it comes to technology, if we use it the right way. Here in Pakistan, we have a lot of Facebook groups where people are writing novels. So how do
Mm,
they encourage people to write novels? You write one episode, okay, you have a story in mind, you have like for me, when I begin writing, I have the end in mind, and then I
mm,
formulate the whole story according to it. So there are different styles. So when I wanted to write, I did not know who to go to, because as a writer, as an artist, when you create something, you need feedback, you need a little pat on the back,
mm,
that
mm,
appreciation, because that gives you a sense of fulfillment. So
mm,
when I started writing, I was searching for places to be published. I created this WordPress blog, but again, who reads a WordPress? I used to send it to thousands of people, and I would get just 5 to 6 views and one comment saying very
mm,
good, that's it. So not a very detailed technical comment which would help me improve as a writer. So I was searching, I was just browsing through Facebook, and I saw lots of different groups which allowed me to publish, to post my novels episode wise. People will read those novels, they will comment under it as to they how they want the characters to evolve, how they want the story to go ahead. So this also gave me an insight of what the people actually want to read. And
mm.
once the novel is completely posted, then the group also pays half an amount for your novel to be coming out as a hard copy. So this is again
And that's
technology, so we need to
technology.
use it the right way.
Mhm.
Okay, so
I'd
here
like
is
to,
Tahir, and she's asking, give some tips to be a creative writer. Every
yeah,
writer is creative.
yes, exactly. One is write something every day. Yeah, if you
Hmm.
have a journal, that's your place. If it's on Facebook, that's your place. If it's 100 words, great. If it's an hour's worth, even better. But you really do have to hone the craft. I have an
Hmm.
artist friend who does a watercolor portrait every day, just a little quick sketch every day. She may not do anything else, but she's done that. And I feel the same way about, the lines I write in my diary at the end of the day. You really just have to work at it every day to be creative. Uh, and and also, I suppose, don't be too hard on yourself. Would be another good tip, because that I think what creates writer's block is people
Hmm.
perfect to be want it to be perfect, and it might never get on page if you're just waiting for the perfect moment or for the perfect line. You just have to get on the page, and you just have to do it.
Okay, Donna, as a writer, I have this question. Writer's block is something that people usually experience, and sometimes it goes on for so long that you are actually unable to come out of it. So, does
Mhm.
it happen with you? And when it does, how do you come out of it?
Yeah, I've been a wire service reporter for a long time, and there's just no time for writer's block. In that case, you really have deadlines to meet. You have editors waiting for you to write something, so you write something. Maybe
Hmm.
the thing you write the next day will be better, but you wrote something today, and that's always been what keeps me going. You you have to do it. I have a friend who was like me, a wire service reporter in Johannesburg, and he left reporting to study novel writing. And he did his course in Johannesburg, so I got to kind of talk to him as he was going through it. And one of his classes was just six students who were writing novels who would met once a week to talk about their novel, about their progress. And he would find that some people would come to that class and say, "I just wasn't inspired this week. I didn't write anything." And my friend Griffin is his name, would think, "You weren't inspired. You had an assignment," which is a very which is a very wire service way to think about it. You have an assignment, so you do it. And he says he may not have been the best writer in that class, but he was the one who wrote, and that's what you have to do.
This happens when your passion becomes your work. Then there's no
Mm,
time for writer's block.
yeah.
Best thing. Okay, so as we have already discussed, I had this question for you: what do you mostly write on? But you already mentioned that I write on hunger and housing, as
Mm,
you consider them the biggest issues. And I think hunger and housing are not just issues of Denver or USA or Pakistan. I
mm,
think these are two basic things that we are lacking all over the world. Whichever
mm,
continent you go to, you will find hunger, and you will find housing issues also.
mm.
Okay, so we have one more question here. When are you really when are you really stressed? When you are really stressed, what do you prefer to do? I think, right.
Yeah. When I'm really stressed, I'd say getting a little
Read.
exercise definitely helps. And things I'm stressed about are often, uh, I guess I think of a story as a puzzle in a way, or a problem to solve. And sometimes you're trying to figure out how to get from topic A to topic B in a story.
Hmm.
And if I go for a run or go for a walk, somehow it helps me meditate, clear my mind, and solve those kinds of problems that I might find in my writing. So the exercise, which I know is hard now because we're all being told to to stay at home. But I also do yoga, so that's something I can do at home. So there's opportunities.
So all of this helps you stay focused.
Mhm, exactly.
Okay, so what motivates you to write every single day, other than your job?
And just I guess it was a desire to connect with other people. I mean, that's what writing is for me, and I think that's so important to all of us. And we all have different ways of connecting, but for me, it's writing, and that's my motivation.
Okay, and fine. So I'm also teaching social studies to grade 8. So I tell my students to watch news daily and be aware of the global conditions of the world, what is happening globally, other than the pandemic, of course, because you don't need to know that pandemic is coming to your mobile phone every other day. So
Mm,
you are trying to run away from it, but again, global politics, global issues that are going around in the world, but somehow children do not understand the importance of that, and that's the role journalism is playing in order to bring the global politics or the global conditions to your television sets with the help of these channels, that is BBC, with the help of these newspapers, that is the news and the New York Times and all of this. But students somehow they are unable to understand or realize the importance of it. Even if they read because the teacher has asked them to read, or even if they watch news, they just watch it because the teacher has asked them to watch it. So what do you think, how can teachers who are watching us right now, or who will watch us later when the video is saved and they'll watch it according to their times, how can they motivate the children to actually look at these news reports or read these news reports in a way that they influence them as a person?
mm. I wonder if, as teachers, you can also give assignments to the parents, because I think so. Children are watching their parents really carefully. If their parents are reading the paper every day, if their parents are watching the news, discussing it, the children are going to see that and understand that it's important to my parents. And though they may not want to admit it, they care about what their parents
Very
think.
right.
I think if you can kind of encourage that more, the context for the students, if you're not working against that context in the home, it might be a way. And of course, it's not easy to ask parents to do that, but maybe if you explain it to the parents, this is why, it might be good for the parents as well.
I remember those parent teacher meetings when the parents will come to school and say that my child does not read. And then I always have this question in my mind, that do you ever read in front of your child? I
Mm,
mean, reading is something that is cultivated through your homes. I
mm,
remember I have always been into reading, always. So when I got married and when I was expecting my first my son, so I used to read, day and night. And then when he was born, also I would read a magazine or anything that would come along. And he
mm,
also sees me, watches me reading something new every single day. So this is how this love of reading has been instilled in him. Now, whenever he's free, even if he gets a chips packet to eat, he
mm,
would read out the ingredients and read every single thing. So
yeah.
sometimes it's so like frustrating. Why do you read everything? Why do you read manuals? Why do you read out the ingredients of these packets of desserts and all of that? But he reads because we have been reading.
Mm-hmm.
So this is so important to cultivate this environment at home. Sometimes here, as I said, that we talk about the importance of news, but here if you ask a parent, the parent would say, what does the news bring? It brings negativity. So why watch such things? Why not watch a drama or a play or a movie or a song? That is important too. But again, watching news or watching global issues together with the children and making them understand that, see, this is happening and this should be the right thing to do. So that broadens the perspective of a child also. We have a very interesting question, Donna. Your writing makes you a journalist, or does your journalism motivates you for writing? So how is that?
I think I started wanting to write, so and then journalism became my avenue for doing that. So I'd say the writing came first, and then the journalism.
Okay. And okay, Donna, one more question because a lot of students will also be watching the video later when electricity comes here.
Mhm.
So, what are the potential career fields, one can have if they have good writing skills
Mm.
and if their stars are, what to say, generous on them, and they also come to know that, okay, I have this potential as a writer, other than journalism, or maybe in journalism, what are those specific potential careers that one might pursue?
Mm. I'll take those. I don't think there's any career that uh, won't be helped by being able to communicate clearly. Both my parents are health workers. My mother's a nurse, and my father is an industrial hygienist. He works in workplace safety, and I grew up watching them writing reports all the time. That's the lawyers have to be able to communicate. Scientists have to be able to communicate. I think we're seeing this particularly now during the pandemic. The scientists who are good communicators are saving lives, and so whatever your interest is, writing, being able to communicate is going to help you. And I also think you need to encourage students not to be intimidated by that idea either. They can do it. And, and maybe encourage them in that sense too. That not only will you need to be able to do it, no matter what career path you're going to choose, you can do it. And we're doing it now in our conversation, and just kind of uh, underline to young writers that writing is conversation on a page. It's communication on a page, and you can do it. Um, I did more show and tell since I'm home. I was able to do this. This is a beautiful new novel by a woman named Priya Sharma, who's based in northern England. She's a doctor. That's what she does with her, day in, day out. But she's also a novelist, and I see so much of her. I guess the compassion and the interest in people that drove her into medicine is so evident in her fiction. And there's so many doctors who are also writers. So maybe some of those, you said you have too many doctors, maybe some of them should be considered writing as well. Maybe it's that desire to connect with people that drove them to medicine might also drive them to be a writer.
Like you said, Priya Sharma, we have this Paul Kalanithi also. When
Mm.
Breath Becomes Air. I don't know whether you have read that or not. It's an
Oh,
amazing, amazing book. He actually suffered from cancer, and he wrote this, book as a journey of how he himself was a doctor. So he said that I knew that I was suffering from something, but I never went on to check that and this and then this whole journey of deterioration from phase one into phase two. So there are so many medical terminologies.
I missed the name, but maybe you can send me a message about that.
When breath becomes air.
When
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 breath becomes air.
when breath
Breath,
becomes
B-R, yeah, when breath becomes air, Paul Kalanithi. I never knew the definitions of those medical terminologies that he has used in his book. But
mm,
again, contextual vocabulary comes
mm,
into play so much in that book that I cannot tell you, Donna. It's a
mm,
beautiful piece to read. And you would also come to know that, oh my God, like coronary thrombosis is having a clot in the main artery of your
mm,
heart. I still remember that word,
yeah.
which I would not have otherwise. So this is the most beautiful thing about writing. Donna, please tell us about your books as well.
My first book is called It's a Black White Thing, and it's about race relations among young South Africans. When I came back to South Africa in 2008, there was a lot of talk in the media about a large university kind of in the middle of South Africa that had been under apartheid, was built for whites, and it was trying to integrate, and there was a lot of resistance to the integration, including a video that some white students made that ridiculed black students. And that video got on YouTube and went around the world, and it was a kind of a crisis for this university. And they responded by appointing a black professor as the head of the university, the first time that had ever happened at this university. And he came to the university, and the first thing he did was forgive the people who had put this video together. He basically said, uh, it wasn't them, it was us. As a society, we've created this, and as a society, we have to solve it together. So became very interested in him and very interested in what he was trying to do at this university, and the book was about his journey at that university. And then the second book I wrote was once I came back to the States. It was interesting to me that I didn't feel like the Americans were talking about the war on terror, which of course had been so much about what I wrote about and what people were talking about outside the U.S. And I read a newspaper article about a small town in Colorado where the people in town were trying to help veterans of the war reintegrate into civilian life. And I thought, well, someone's talking about the war there, and I went to this town and learned about this project, and that book is about really that project and about the veterans in that town. So both my books are
Oh,
really works of journalism.
beautiful. Beautiful. This concept of putting such a unique idea into a book makes that idea memorable, and it gives life to that idea beyond its years. So again, books have a good message to carry, and the messages that you mentioned are so much needed, not just in the US but also in countries where we feel that there's no racism, like Pakistan. But again, it is everywhere. It has its roots everywhere. So, Donna, it was such a great time with you. Okay, so we have one more question here. This is an interesting one. I would like to know that. How many types of language you can speak? Oh,
I
okay.
can speak French well and English, and I've been studying Spanish since I've been
Okay.
back in the States. When I was in South Africa, I studied a little Zulu, didn't get very good at it. When I was in India, I studied a little Hindi, and when I was in Cairo, I studied a little Arabic.
Okay. So
And,
that's
and I've
great. You know so
always
many
said
languages.
learning languages is just you may never get to the point where you can have a conversation, but you learn so much about the culture just in taking the lesson. And you learn about,
That's one.
you learn how to learn, also learn how to study effectively. So I've always,
And that's when one more perk of traveling this much of different completely opposite directions of the world, like going to India and then to London and this and that. So you also get to interact with a lot of people, so you learn languages. In Pakistan, I remember we went to KPK. It's a province of Pakistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So there is one, I don't know whether to call it a caste or not. Yeah, so these Pathans are living. So basically,
mm,
they are also, this is a caste, this is a community.
mm,
So they speak Pashto.
mm,
So I remember I and my two friends, we went there for a training session. We went there to train teachers, and we came back learning a few words of Pashto.
um,
And if like there's this fan that is, right there up on the ceiling, and if I want to say, "Ye mera pankha hai," this
mm,
is my fan, ye mera pankha hai in Urdu, and in Pashto we would say da zama pankhe de. So it's such a beautiful thing to learn what a single sentence can be said out in different languages. So Donna, we are nearing the end of the interview. Thank you so much again. Just one message that would sum up your effort and every other writer's effort that they are trying to make through their articles, through the
mm.
books that they are writing. So one message to the youth.
That it is possible to make connections with other people. And sometimes we feel isolated. I think this is a period in the world's history where we're all feeling isolated and at home, but it is possible to connect, and it will help you in your growth, and it will help you, I suppose, feel stronger and feel your own place in the world by understanding other people. And it is possible to understand other people. I think that's the message. That's the message of journalism. We think it's possible, and we keep trying.
Okay, Donna, thank you so much for your time today. And all of us are really humbled to have you here. And you're always welcome on the page. And we would like to learn more from you again. So that's it, Donna. Thank you once again.
Well, bye bye, and thank you everyone for welcoming me into your homes, and thank you for the book suggestion. I'm going to read it.
Please do that. I'll also read the books, inshallah.
All right.
Okay, then, Donna. See you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Have a good day. You have a day ahead. Have
I
a
do.
good day.
Good night, everyone.
Bye bye. सो अस्सलाम वालेकुम एवरीबॉडी, आई एम बैक। और ये थी हमारे साथ डोना ब्राइसन। काफ़ी सारी अंग्रेजी हमने बोल ली, काफ़ी सारी हमने बातें कर ली। अब वापस आ जाए हम यहाँ पे। मैं मुनीरा मुजम्मिल के कमेंट्स देख रही थी, इंग्लिश नहीं आती, दावत जबान प्लीज। कोई बात नहीं, इंग्लिश नहीं आती है तो आ जाएगी, बट अगेन एज डोना कुड नॉट communicate with us in any other language, तो हमको अंग्रेजी में बात करना पड़ी, वरना आप जानते हैं कि हम तो जरा जबानों को ना बैलेंस करके चलने में माहिर हैं. तो yes, if you want second part of this, Taira, I'm really humbled by the way you people were putting in questions. मतलब मैंने जो 15-20 सवाल बनाए थे ना, तो मैं उसमें से सिर्फ 4 ही पूछ सकी हूँ, because आप लोगों के questions they were so amazing, इतना मजा आ रहा था कि मुझे जरूरत ही नहीं पड़ी कि मुझे कहीं से कोई और क्वेश्चन लाना पड़े. अब मैं इंतजार कर रही हूँ मेरे साथियों का, जिन्होंने आना है और हमने कुछ अनाउंस करना है. मैं काफी दिनों से अपने वॉल पे भी पोस्ट कर रही थी दैट देयर इज समथिंग कुकिंग, कुछ पक रहा है, और मैं कुछ क्वेश्चंस भी कर रही थी लोगों से. सो देयर वाज दिस एयर कि कुछ हो रहा है, कुछ हो रहा है, तो हम उसी को अनाउंस करने लगे हैं. मैं जरा पूछ लूँ मेरे ग्रुप पे, और डोना ब्राइसन का मैसेज आया है, थैंक यू, आई एंजॉयड दैट. और देखिए स्किल्ड पर सारा, जस्ट गिव मी अ मिनट, मैं रशीदा से पूछ लूँ कि इज शी कमिंग, रशीदा और फातिमा से, बिकॉज हम आज जो अनाउंस करने वाले हैं इट्स अ पेज थिंग, तो बिल्कुल मेरे साथ जो पेज के स्टेक होल्डर्स हैं वो सब साथ होने चाहिए. चलें, तो उन लोगों के लिए जिनको थोड़ी सी प्रॉब्लम हुई समझने में इंग्लिश को लेकर या किसी ऐसी जबान को लेकर, मैं सम अप करती चलूँ. डोना ब्राइसन जो है वो बेसिकली एक न्यूज़पेपर में नहीं, 4-5 न्यूज़पेपर्स में फ्रीलांसर हैं. आप जो है क्या बोलते हैं, बस मैं 2 मिनट में ले रही हूँ आपको, रिश्ते में 2 मिनट में जरा फिनिश कर लूँ, ठीक है. आप अखबारों में लिखती रही हैं, और आपका जो लिखने का जो जॉनरा है, आप जिस एरिया पे ज्यादा फोकस करती हैं, वो है हाउसिंग और हंगर. ये ऐसे 2 मसले हैं, रोटी कपड़ा और मकान, जो हर जगह है मेरे ख्याल से. तो डोना ब्राइसन की जो किताबें हैं, दे आर ऑल्सो रिलेटेड टू ह्यूमैनिटी एंड ह्यूमैनिक पर्पसेस, और आप नॉन फिक्शन लिखती हैं, तो इसलिए हमने सोचा कि उनको पेज पर लाया जाए, बिकॉज अगेन वी आर ट्राइंग टू ब्रिंग इन पीपल फ्रॉम ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड, जिनको हम जानते हैं, ताकि क्या हो सके कि हमारा जो सर्कल है, हमारा जो नेटवर्क है, ये बढ़ सके. और ये जो लॉकडाउन का टाइम है, जिसको हम घर में बैठ के गुजार देते हैं सोच कर कि क्या करना है क्या नहीं करना है, तो वो हम अच्छे तरीके से गुजार सकें. चले, रशीदा बेन आ गई है, मैं उनको ले लेती हूँ. क्या चमकता नूरानी चेहरा है रशीदा बेन. लगता है आपकी तरफ लाइट नहीं है.
Yes, there is no light. Assalamu alaikum.
वालेकुम अस्सलाम. थैंक यू सो मच रशीदा बेन, आप लाइट ना
I'm
होने
looking
के
so
बावजूद.
horrible.
नो, आप तो नूर का हाला लग रही हैं. चेहरे पे नूर ही नूर है. वो होता है ना कि लोग कह रहे होते हैं कि यार नमाजें पढ़ो, ये करो, आपके चेहरे पे नूर आएगा, तो वो वाला नूर जो है ना आपके चेहरे पे आ गया है, मुझे लगता है.
मैंने नमाज नहीं पढ़ी अभी तक इस टाइम की.
पढ़ लीजिएगा, कोई बात नहीं. आपके यहाँ लाइट नहीं है ना, समझ सकते हैं हम.
जी, लाइट नहीं है.
फातिमा का हम 2 मिनट इंतजार कर लेते हैं. रशीदा बेन अगर फातिमा आ जाती है, आई थिंक उसके यहाँ भी लाइट का कोई मसला है, अदरवाइज हम बिगिन करते हैं. वी हैव बासम रामूनी, सो वी विल आल्सो बी कन्वर्सिंग इन इंग्लिश बिकॉज वी हैव सम पीपल हु आर फ्रॉम नॉट फ्रॉम दिस फ्रॉम आवर कंट्री, दे आर फ्रॉम द आउटसाइड. थोड़ा अंग्रेजी हो, थोड़ा इंग्लिश हो, ताकि थोड़ा आपको समझ आए, थोड़ा उनको समझ आए, फिर आप लोग एक दूसरे को समझा दें.
जी
तो
बिल्कुल, नो प्रॉब्लम.
कैसा लगा रशीदा
बहुत
बेन
अच्छा
आपको?
इंटरव्यू, बहुत अच्छा लिया आपने इंटरव्यू मिस जोना का. और बस आवाज का थोड़ा इश्यू था, समझने में थोड़ी सी प्रॉब्लम हो रही थी,
बहुत सॉफ्ट
गौर से
स्पोकन है,
सुनना पड़ा,
बहुत.
स्लो बोल रही
हम
थी
लोग
थोड़ा सा.
हम लोग 9:15 के आ गए थे यहाँ, एंड देन मैं उनसे बात कर रही थी, तो मुझे बार बार उनको कहना पड़ा था ना, थोड़ा जस्ट बी अ लिटिल लाउडर, एंड शी इज लाइक दिस इज द लाउडेस्ट. मैं इससे ज्यादा जोर से कभी बोला ही नहीं है. मैंने कहा यार हम तो पाकिस्तान में हैं, हम तो कितना जोर से.
नहीं, वैसे
हम
ये बात ठीक है कि उनकी आवाज का साउंड ही शायद लो था.
लुबैना बहन का कमेंट पढ़ लीजिए, यू मस्ट बी थैंकफुल टू कराची इलेक्ट्रिक फॉर दिस नूर. लुबैना बहन देखिए, मेरे चेहरे पर तो वैसे ही कराची इलेक्ट्रिक की जरूरत ही नहीं है.
But still we are online.
Still we are online. Again, this is the dedication that हम सब करते ही हैं हमारे प्रोफेशन के साथ. थैंक यू मिस ज़ैनब फॉर दिस अमेजिंग इंटरव्यू. थैंक यू ताहिरा फॉर सच अमेजिंग क्वेश्चन. मतलब क्या मजा आ रहा था आपके सवालों से, वो बात बनती जा रही थी. ओके, सो बासम रेमोनी इज फ्रॉम तुनिसिया, और इंशाल्लाह बासम रेमोनी विल आल्सो बी विद अस इंशाल्लाह इन एन इंटरव्यू. है क्या करें, हम ही अनाउंस कर देते हैं, क्या करें?
ठीक है.
बी द लाइट. आह, क्या बात है. तो आप लोगों ने सबने टीजर देखा होगा वाला. किसी के जहन में कुछ आया कि क्या है? कमेंट कीजिए, कमेंट. ये जो ठक ठक वाला आपने टीजर देखा, 10 तक वाला जो टीजर आपने देखा, व्हाट डू यू थिंक दैट इज? इफ एनीबडी कैन कमेंट.
मैं बताऊं?
आप तो जानती हैं, आप क्या बताएंगी? आप बताइए,
ठीक है,
2 मिनट हमारे
आप अपने
पास एक दो लोगों
आप
को
कह
कर लेते
दीजिए,
हैं। आप
नहीं
अपने
कुछ
नूरानी
अच्छा
चेहरे
सुनने
से
को मिलेगा।
कहिएगा। मैंने बहुत बोल लिया,
आप
आदत मैं
कहिए,
सारा
मैं
दिन बोल बोल
ठोकूंगी।
ठोकिएगा, सही है, ठोकना। तो लगता है हमारे जो लोग हैं वो गेस नहीं कर रहे हैं। कोई बात नहीं, कोई बात नहीं, ना करिए गेस, हम बता देते हैं आपको। रशीदा बेन चले। अच्छा, ताहिरा ने गेस कर दिया है, मतलब गेस कर दिया है क्या, उन्होंने कमेंट कर दिया है, यू आर अवेयरिंग अस।
वेरी राइट।
क्लोज। चले रशीदा, अनाउंस कीजिए।
अच्छा,
फातिमा भी आ गई, फातिमा भी आ गई। रुक जाओ रुक जाओ रुक जाओ, फातिमा भी आ गई।
फातिमा आ गई, फिर फातिमा से शुरुआत कर लेते हैं।
अब देखो फातिमा कैसे आई है कि पीछे से रोशनी चमक रही है।
चलो, यहाँ लाइट है। वालेकुम
फातिमा
सलाम।
आवाज नहीं आ रही है
एक
आपकी, अब आई, अब आई।
एक स्क्रीनशॉट ले लें।
आई तीनों दो लोगों के चेहरे कैसे चमक रहे हैं और मेरा क्या हाल हुआ है, देखो। एक तस्वीर ले रही हूँ मैं। चलिए भाई, इंट्रोड्यूस कीजिए और शेयर कीजिए, क्या है ये?
ज़ैनब, आई थिंक यू शुड स्टार्ट। हम फिर आप पीछे पीछे फॉलो करेंगे।
मैं तस्वीर ले लूँ जरा हमारी। हम, यह मेरा मोबाइल आ रहा है, चलो ले ली। जी, तो ऐसा है कि बहुत बहुत टाइम से हम सोच रहे थे कि ये जो लाइव सेशंस हम करते हैं वो तो है ही। इसके पहले जो हमारा एक वीडियो था उसमें हमने बात की थी कि हम कुछ सर्टिफाइड सेशंस की तरफ भी जा रहे हैं, जहाँ पर स्किल से प्रॉपर्ली सर्टिफिकेशन और लर्निंग मटेरियल वगैरह भी अवेलेबल होगा। तो उसकी तरफ भी हम जाएंगे ऑफ कोर्स। मगर अगेन सोसाइटी की तरफ हमारा कंट्रीब्यूशन थोड़ा सा बढ़ाने के लिए, या थोड़ा सा ऐसी चीजों पर बात करने के लिए जिन चीजों को हम फेसबुक पे देखते हैं या कहीं अपने आसपास होता हुआ देखते हैं, तो दिल में एक तकलीफ होती है, दिल में दर्द उठता है, मगर बस वो दर्द अंदर ही रह जाता है। घर वालों से बात करके हम उस बात को भूल जाते हैं और उस बात के बारे में बात नहीं कर पाते, क्योंकि बात से ही तो बात बढ़ती है। तो उस बात के बारे में बात करें और उस बात को हम आगे बढ़ाएं, ताकि वो बात उन लोगों तक पहुंच सके जिन तक वो पहुंचनी चाहिए। तो हम एक छोटी सी वीडियो सीरीज शुरू करने जा रहे हैं, जिसका नाम होगा दस्तक। और इस वीडियो सीरीज में हम उन छोटे छोटे इश्यूज के बारे में बात करेंगे जो बहुत छोटे होते हैं दिखने में बजाहिर, लेकिन आगे चल के बहुत बड़े हो जाते हैं। वो छोटी छोटी चीजें, वो मॉरल वैल्यूज जिनके बारे में मैं और आप वर्कशॉप नहीं लेते, जिनके बारे में मैं और आप अपनी साइंस की क्लास में जाके पढ़ाते नहीं है, जिनके बारे में मैं और आप अपने एग्जामिनेशन सेंटर्स में बात नहीं करते, ऐसी बातें जिनके बगैर डॉक्टर बनना, इंजीनियर बनना, टीचर बनना, साइंटिस्ट बनना, कुछ भी बनना बेकार है। छोटी छोटी सी बातें, उन छोटी छोटी सी बातों को लेकर हम आपके दरवाजों पर दस्तक देने आएंगे इंशाल्लाह इस हफ्ते। फातिमा और रशीदा, अब आप कहिए अगर मैंने कुछ छोड़ दिया।
सिंपल अगर एक लफ्ज में कहें तो ये एक लफ्जों और एहसास की दस्तक होगी, जिसमें लफ्ज हमारे होंगे और एहसास आप लोगों के थोड़े से चेंज होंगे कि जो परसेप्शन बाज दफा हम लोगों को सुन लेते हैं कि ये ऐसा है। जी फातिमा।
जी सॉरी, मैं थोड़ा सा क्विक इसलिए होना चाहती हूँ क्योंकि लाइट जाने वाली है फिर से, तो इसीलिए इससे पहले कि लाइट जाए, ये जो मैं अपने व्यूअर्स को ये बताना चाहूँगी कि हम सीरीज शुरू कर रहे हैं, ये वो बातें हैं जो यूजुअली लोग डिस्कस नहीं कर पाते, और हम छोटी छोटी सी बातें जो दिल में रह जाती हैं, ऑन लॉन्ग टर्म वो दिल में रहती हैं बातें, हम वो आप लोगों के लिए आपके दरवाजे तक लेकर आएंगे, दस्तक देंगे उनको, आप हमसे शेयर करें। और ये हमारे नॉर्मल जो हमारे एजुकेशनल सेशंस होते हैं उनकी तरह तो नहीं होगा, शॉर्ट होगा, लेकिन इतना इंटरेस्टिंग होगा कि वो 15 मिनट भी आप लोग भूल नहीं पाएंगे जिंदगी भर। वो इतना इंशाल्लाह ताला हमारी कोशिश यही है, हमारी पूरी टीम की, कि वो ऐसी वीडियोस हो, ऐसे टॉपिक्स हो जो हर घर की कहानी हो, हर ऐसा इंसान जो कि पाकिस्तान में रहता है, पाकिस्तान से बाहर भी रहता है, ऐसे ऐसे साथ या होता है जो डिस्कस नहीं कर पाता। हम आ रहे हैं आप लोगों के दरवाजे पे दस्तक देने, और आप लोगों की ये सब इश्यूज, ये सब बातें हम बहुत ही खूबसूरत तरीके से पूरी करेंगे
इंशाल्लाह ताला। तो इसी के साथ हमारी दस्तक के मुंतजर रहिएगा, और इंशाल्लाह इसी से रिलेटेड इन्फॉर्मेशन सेशन के हवाले से ये बताते चलें कि ऐसा नहीं है कि दस्तक के शुरू होने से ये जो सेशंस हो रहे हैं वो खत्म हो जाएंगे, या जो पेड सेशंस होने वाले हैं वो नहीं होंगे। ये तमाम चीजें, क्योंकि हम एज फीमेल्स, एज टीचर्स और एज एंटरप्रेन्योर्स हम इतने अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह मल्टी टैलेंटेड है कि हम 300 कश्तियों में एक साथ सवार होकर अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह 300 के 300 को किनारे पर लगा सकते हैं। और आप जैसी ऑडियंस हो तो फिर क्या चाहिए।
बिल्कुल, अल्लाह ताला हमें एनर्जी देता
और
रखे।
एक बात ये भी कि अगर
जी रशीदा,
अगर जैसे आप ऑडियंस के पास भी कोई ऐसे आइडियाज हो या आप चाहते हो कि हम उस टॉपिक पे बात करें स्किल के थ्रू, तो आपकी भी जो एडवाइस हैं और सजेशंस हैं वो वी आर रियली वेलकम टू दैट, और आप हमें मैसेजेस कर सकते हैं उसके बारे में।
बिल्कुल, तो आज आपने 3 तिगाड़ा को एक साथ देख लिया है। ये बेसिकली हम तीनों की एक छोटी-सी काविश है जो आप तक पहुँचती है हफ्ते में 3 दफ़ा, 4 दफ़ा, और अब 5 दफ़ा पहुँचेगी बिकॉज़ ऑफ दस्तक। और इंशाल्लाह ताला अगर हम सब ने मिलकर एक ज़िंदगी को भी एक पॉज़िटिव डायरेक्शन दे दी, तो दुनिया का तो क्या कहना, लेकिन आखिरत जो संवरेगी तो फिर उसका तो कोई जवाब ही नहीं है। ठीक है? तो अब हम चलते हैं अपने-अपने किचन्स में।
बिल्कुल, इट्स टाइम नाउ।
इट्स टाइम नाउ। थैंक यू फातिमा, थैंक यू रशीदा। आप लोगों ने, एक की लाइट जाने वाली है, एक की नहीं है, और मेरी थोड़ी देर पहले ही आई है अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, तो अब अल्लाह ना करे मेरी जाए। ठीक है जी। सो
थैंक यू सो
विद
मच
दिस,
जैनब।
थैंक यू सो मच रशीदा बेन, थैंक यू सो मच फातिमा।
अल्लाह हाफिज।
ठीक है, टीम वर्क्स मेक ड्रीम वर्क्स, और इसी तरह की बहुत सी चीजें होती रहेंगी। हमारे साथ रहिएगा। अल्लाह हाफिज, हैव अ वेरी गुड नाइट, स्वीट ड्रीम्स, बाय बाय।